and power, defense synergy, energy security, and digital sovereignty. I'm Vas Shenoy, your moderator today, and the Chief Representative for Italy of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. Today, we will begin inviting Mr. Ramey Prabhu, past President of ICC, founder and Managing Director of Napa Capital Advisors, um, to give us a welcome address.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Vas, for the introduction. At the outset, I'd like to thank and welcome Ambassador, well, please pardon my pronunciation, Ambassador Kostomitopoulou. Is that correct? Okay. I'm wary of doing the wrong pronunciation when it comes to foreign words. But Ambassador Kostomitopoulou, thank you for gracing us today. My good friend Walter Ferrara, the Consul General of Italy in Mumbai, the Yaniv Revak, the new Israeli Consul General, who has just come to Mumbai, Mr. Paniotis Christomou, again, my old friend from Eurobank in Cyprus, and I see now the Secretary General of the IGC Committee. Wow, congratulations on! I'm very happy that that has done, and of course, my good friends Antonios Fiorakis and Dinu Georgi, the chief representatives of ICC in Greece and Romania, respectively. Um, Last but not the least, my friend Vas, who is the chief representative of ICC in Italy and who will be moderating this session and setting the context. So thank you again, Vas. I think if you look at the IGC, if you look at the IMEC, which is the main discussion point today, I think IMEC is, is a very old and very important trade route for generations. So the Hellenic republics of Greece and Cyprus, Italy, again, being a very important old trading partner, have been trading with India from the times of the Greeks and the Romans empires. And the trade routes between our countries are very, very ancient. And if you see, even back in the Roman days, you had stories of Indian spices, Indian incense being sold in Rome. You had stories in the Greek days of Syracusa trading a lot with India, Athens being trading a lot with India. A lot of old Greek coins were found in India. So the India European corridor in the old days, of course, it was a land corridor in those old days primarily, but it's a very ancient trade route which existed. In today's context, we are now looking at it as a land plus sea corridor, wherein you have India, you have the Middle East, and all the way on to Europe. So the IMEC corridor going from, say, primarily the western point of part of India through Saudi, through UAE, Saudi, through Israel, into Greece, Italy, and the European markets, today forms a very important or potentially a very important corridor which can be built for Indian exports going global. And today I was speaking at a couple of events, both ICC and CII events today on global trade. And there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of tension today on global trade, especially given the changing geopolitical dynamics. So it also becomes very important for India, from our own perspective, to look at creation of newer partners, look at the creation of newer trade routes, also safer trade routes, because today the Suez Canal route has become very challenging. All of us who are in the trade business know that getting a ship on the Suez Canal is extremely difficult in today's time, and insurance costs are spiraling up, and all sorts of changes are happening. So a lot of you have to go through the much longer route of the Cape of Good Hope. So if we can create an alternative route for exports, for trade, for imports through the IMEC corridor, this becomes an extremely powerful project for India and also for the Middle East and also for Europe, because India will be one of the primary and largest markets going forward for European products, for Middle Eastern products, and the other way around, India as a product link for these countries. The idea is, of course, to build a shipping plus rail plus, again, shipping corridor between our two great countries or great regions, I would say. And this goes just beyond physical infrastructure. It also talks about enhancing data infrastructure through data cables to ensure data links with Europe. It also looks at maritime and defense cooperation, which, if you see in today's world, given the fact that lots of non-state actors are increasingly disrupting trade. If you see what's happening with the Houthis in the Red Sea, if you see what's happening with several other elements, so non-state actors who have a very low-cost way of operating have the ability to disrupt trade worth billions and billions of tens of billions of dollars, which is, I'm sure our, the political representatives and diplomatic representatives on this dais can speak a lot better than I can. But I think in order to do that, maritime security and cooperation becomes important. Better data links become important. And I think it can really help boost India's GDP by, or at least India's exports by 5 to 8% per year, which is very, very critical at this juncture today, given the challenges we are facing on the geopolitical level with some of our traditional partners, which is happening. And this can actually translate into almost $22 billion worth of sales. Now, if you see, we know that in India is already India has very strong links with UAE and Saudi. They're one of the largest customers of both Jebel Ali Port, Dammam Port, King Abdulaziz Port are Indian companies. India is an Indian company. Adani Ports and SEZ owns Haifa Port in northern Israel. India has been looking increasingly at acquiring port assets also in Europe. So it could be somewhere in Greece, maybe Thessaloniki as an option. Could be somewhere in Italy. Could be Trieste as an option. Could be somewhere. I think the on the senior people on the table can really speak about. And of course, Piraeus, which is the main port in Greece, just outside Athens, is currently owned by the Chinese. But there's no reason why India cannot also have a very strong footprint in Greece. And I'd love to hear more from the ambassador when she speaks about that. Hence, today's discussion carries a lot of weight because in ICC, when I was the president, we opened offices through our chief representatives in Italy. We had a historic visit to Italy, wherein, thanks to VAST, we organized an event at the, maybe you can speak a bit about it in your speech, at the mausoleum of Augustus, of Emperor Augustus. We did an event. We were a very historic place in Greece. When I was there, we signed the overlooking the Parthenon along with the deputy foreign minister. We signed the creation of the IGC, the Indo-Greek Cypriot Chamber of Commerce, which Mr. Paniotis now is the Secretary General, which again created a very strong foundation. And while our Prime Minister has not yet visited Greece since we created this, I'm happy to note that he did visit Cyprus in June, and I was fortunate enough to accompany him on that trip. And I think that's already and he was very happy with the progress made by the IGC. And I think the three pillars of IGC are all here today. India, Greece, and Cyprus are three essential pillars of the IGC, and I think can really play an important role. So I'd love to hear more also from the Greek ambassador on that. When we listen to our honorable Italian Consul General, I think what also would be great for Walter would be to see how IGC and how Italy can also play an important role in the IGC. Israel already is an important, I would say, pivotal role with Haifa Port, but we have to see what more we can do. Today, we are, as I conclude, today we complete, or this year we complete the 100th year of the ICC. And as we enter beyond that, and of course, we have the beautiful role is a lot of the seeds that you lay become larger trees and plants much later. So I'm very happy that the initiatives that I had taken when I was president of the ICC are bearing fruition under our honorable president, Shri Abhyuday Jindal, and of course his successor, Shri Brijbhushan Agarwalji, will take it further. I have also since moved on to a role with the CII. I'm now co-chair of International for CII, and we will, of course, work along with all of us are working to the same goal, that is to further India's reach and Indian trade's reach globally. And I think ICC, as it enters its 101st year in December, I think IMEC and IGC are, I think, one of the greatest successes that I would say that from my time as president. So I'm very proud of what work we have achieved in creation of the IGC. If I look back at my time, I'm really, really proud of that. I'm very proud of the work that we've achieved with IMEC. The two countries in Europe that I did visit as president are both here. I mean, as official visits are Greece and Cyprus. Greece actually I visited twice as president, Excellency. I also went for the Horasis event last year. And of course, we were fortunate enough to host Ambassador Bartoli before he presented his credentials. So we also had the good fortune of doing that. So I think Greece and Cyprus and Italy are close to our heart. We're very happy that they are represented here. We're very happy that our friends from Israel are represented here. And I think this IMEC being a very, very important corridor for India going forward, I really think that along with the ICC, we can figure out how best to help and grow for Indian exporters, ICC members, and for our government and for the businesses from these countries to increase trade. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to Vas. Thank you, Vas.
Thank you so much, Amey, and thank you so much for your kind words. Last year in June, we had the India Forum in Italy, where at the Augustan Altar of Peace, we launched something called the Indo-Mediterranean Initiative. Um, the Indo-Mediterranean is technically a subset of the Indo-Pacific, but probably for humanity is the most important connection between the two seas. Every time the confluence of the two seas has been um, tried, there has been political chaos. Long time ago, a prince by the name of Dara Sukho, who was Shah Jahan's natural heir, Shah Jahan was the guy who constructed the Taj Mahal, the Mughal emperor who constructed the Taj Mahal, wrote a book which was called Majma al-Bahrain, or The Confluence of the Two Seas, which brought together Hindu and Islamic philosophies. It was the last book he ever published. His brother beheaded him for it, took over the kingdom, threw Emperor Shah Jahan into prison, and took over what was at that point 25% of the world's GDP, the Empire of India. Similarly, another visionary, Shinzo Abe, who we lost way before his time, came up with the speech of the confluence of the two seas. Here, Abe-san didn't speak of the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, but of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. And again, his speech in 2007 to the Indian Parliament, which brought about the Quad, which brought about a series of geopolitical alignments, which brought India back into the center of the Indo-Pacific, were inspirational. But again, we lost Abe-san way before his time, but his genius still lives on. This is why we launched the Indo-Mediterranean Initiative. The Indo-Mediterranean region is where the four most important modern religions were born and currently thrive. The Indo-Mediterranean region is where most of the world's energy transits from. It is the center of ancient learning in Greece, the center of the old Roman Empire, the center of India, where all the world's religions and cultures have coexisted peacefully for thousands of years. But today, the Indo-Mediterranean is in conflict, and the trade routes of the Indo-Mediterranean have highly been prized and extremely been an object of competition by countries that eventually see it as a threat. And that is why the initiative was launched under the umbrella of the ICC last year. And I'm glad that this year we are doing this panel on IMEC to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. That said, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor was itself launched in 2023 in New Delhi during the G20 hosted by Prime Minister Modi. It brings together a trade route that bypasses the Suez Canal, not to replace it, but to be a backstop to it, which brings together a corridor that unites India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Greece, Italy, Germany, France, all countries which are ancient cultures and share similar values. Without much ado, I will now invite His Excellency Walter Ferrara, the Consul General of Italy, to give us our keynote address. But before that, I would request you all to give a warm welcome to His Excellency Yaniv Revach, the Consul General of Israel. It's his first week here, and he was kind enough to join us. So please give him a warm welcome. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Vas. Ameya, thank you very much. Madam Ambassadors, colleagues, Distinguished delegates, leaders of industry, ladies and gentlemen, buon pomeriggio. It is a great privilege to address this esteemed gathering at the ICC Global Business Summit. We meet at a moment of profound transformation in global trade and geopolitics, a moment where new maps of connectivity are being drawn. This recalibration includes a project of historic significance, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC. And at the strategic heart of IMEC, both geographically and politically, sits, as we see it, the partnership between Italy and India. IMEC is far more than a mere transportation route. It is a bold, visionary project for the 21st century. It is a green and digital bridge across continents. It represents a shared commitment to a world where supply chains are more resilient, where economic growth is sustainable, and where connectivity fosters stability rather than dependence. As recently and rightly stated by the Italian Special Envoy for IMEC, Ambassador Francesco Talò, this is not just an alternative route, it is an alternative model of development and cooperation. Italy is proud to be a founding partner and one of the European terminals of this transformative corridor, aiming at developing a network of corridors. Our port of Trieste, as it was said, a historical gateway to Central Europe, is poised to become a central hub in these new networks. But our role extends far beyond geography. Italy brings to IMEC its deep expertise in port logistics, sustainable infrastructure, data connection, and engineering excellence. We see IMEC as a catalyst for investment, innovation, and green technology across our industrial landscape. It is a strategic national priority, aligning perfectly with our foreign policy and economic objectives to strengthen ties with the dynamic Indo-Pacific region, fostering the creation of an Indo-Mediterranean space with connections to Africa and the Atlantic Ocean. And for this corridor to realize its full potential, the partnership of India is not just important, it is absolutely fundamental. India, as the world's fastest growing major economy, is the engine of this new corridor. IMEC will provide Indian businesses with faster, more efficient access to European markets, enhancing competitiveness and unlocking new opportunities. It is a project that directly supports India's monumental infrastructure and economic goals, perfectly complementing initiatives like Make in India and green transition initiatives like the 2070 net zero goal and the National Green Hydrogen Mission. Moreover, the collaboration on IMEC is the newest and most powerful symbol of a deepening Indo-Italian strategic partnership. This is not a coincidence, but the result of concerted political will. It is a joint commitment which covers multiple domains, as reasserted by the most recent interactions between our two prime ministers. On the political front, our relationship has been elevated, as you may know, to a strategic partnership in 2023. There is a strong convergence of views on global issues, from promoting multilateralism to ensuring a stable and secure Indo-Pacific. This high-level trust is the essential foundation upon which ambitious projects like IMEC are built. On the economic front, our bilateral trade has soared to 15 billion euros, making Italy a leading EU economic partner for India. With over 700 Italian companies in India and a growing Indian industrial presence in Italy, our business communities are already deeply integrated. Last April, we further strengthened our relationship on the occasion of the Italy-India Science and Technology Business Forum. IMEC will act as a force multiplier for this existing relationship, creating new value chains in sectors where we excel together. The path ahead requires, of course, perseverance, while the current geopolitical situation presents challenges. However, the work continues, focusing on the concrete aspects of the project, from identifying infrastructure gaps to financial models and regulatory frameworks. The commitment from all partners, including Italy and India, remains unwavering. The economic and strategic logic of IMEC is too powerful to ignore. In conclusion, the IMEC corridor is a testament to what a strategic partnership can achieve. It is a bold answer to the challenges of our time. It symbolizes a future where Italy and India are not just trading partners, but co-architects of a new geo-economic landscape. The summit is a perfect platform to begin translating this grand vision into concrete business opportunities. So I invite the industry leaders present here to engage, to explore, and to become active participants in this endeavor. Together, Italy and India will not only build a corridor of trade, but also a bridge to a more prosperous, connected, and stable future for our peoples. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now we'll pass to the discussion part of today's session. And I'm honored to have the Ambassador of the Hellenic Republic, Her Excellency Ms. Aliki Kutsomitopoulos. I said that right, I hope, Excellency. Ambassador of Greece to India. Your Excellency, if I may, the Greek Prime Minister was a keynote speaker at the Rhizina Dialogues in 2024 and expressed great interest as as being a part of IMEC. And there was a lot of excitement. What developments have happened since between Greece and IMEC, since as well as its engagement in trade?
Yes. Can you hear me? It's working. So thank you very much, first of all, for including me in this panel. I'm afraid that I risk to repeat Walter's speech exactly, or half of it, and for the other half, I'd like to invite you later on to the roundtables for Cyprus and Greece, so that you can hear about also India and Greece's Cyprus relationship. So thus, yes, before talking about Greece specifically, I'd like to repeat what Walter has already mentioned, that we consider that IBEC is a very advanced project. It's a project designed for the 21st century because it's not only about goods, but it's also about energy, clean energy, data. So it's adapted to the needs of today, let's say. On the other hand, moreover, we consider that apart from the economic side of IMEC, there is the potential for this corridor to become a corridor of peace, prosperity, resilience, and solidarity. So we are very interested in participating to the project of IMEC. You are absolutely right that our Prime Minister has underlined the interest of Greece in participating to IMEC when he visited India. Also, we had last February our minister that has also discussed about that with his counterpart, Dr. Shankar, and there have been contacts in different levels. And always we have to keep in mind that there is the official part and the leaders and the politicians, and there's also the business people, which is quite an important part of the project. So there have been the last year many contacts, exchanges. Of course, we all know that the project was a little bit slowed down for different reasons, but now lately I think that the interest is on again, also in the framework of EU. I have the pleasure to say that from our side also, my government has nominated a special representative for IMEC. It's my good colleague that is now in Riyadh, but he soon will take over the IMEC project, and I hope to have him here in India very soon so that we can have discussions and contacts with officials and businesses.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Next, we have His Excellency Yaniv Levak, Consul General of the State of Israel in Mumbai. Since the signature of the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor in September 2023, there has been a terrible terrorist attack on Israel and a resulting conflict in the Middle East. Now, this conflict actually shows the need for IMEC because it has weakened trade corridors, it has endangered trade, it has almost shut the Bab al Mandab. Please tell us on both Israel's perspective on connectivity with India via the GCC and via the Mediterranean to Europe, Israel's role in IMEC and as a hub of trade between the two continents.
Thank you very much for hosting me. Thank you very much for the warm welcome in India. I'm glad to be here. I'm working for my ministry for the last 20 years. 4 years I was based as the minister in Cairo, and for the last 5 years I was the head of the department at our intelligence unit covering the Gulf states. So I'm well familiar with IMEC, but more from the intelligence side, not from the political side. But I would like to address a few points. First of all, when there's a local organization that is based by the countries in the region, it's very important for the stability of the region. I was part in a similar organization in Egypt, the EMGF, that Greece was also part of it. Italy is also part of it, and it shows how strong when you have economic ties, how it can influence on the bilateral ties between the countries. Though the agreement between Israel and Bahrain and the UAE, the Abraham Accords, in a way, I can be proud that even though we suffered 2 years of blood war in the Gaza Strip, we see that those two countries see the agreement as a strategic decision, and they understand the benefits of this agreement. You both mentioned the Houthis before. I need to just clarify. The Houthi problem is not new. It's not something that happened 2 years ago because of the Gaza war. The Houthis are there more than a decade. There was a coalition led by the Saudis and by the UAE for a few years, and they tried to fight the Houthis. There were more than 60 different attacks on ships on this route in the Red Sea, even before the Gaza war began. So today, when some countries declare and say that the problem in the Red Sea will be solved once the problem in Gaza will be solved, it's not true. The problem was there before, and I can say clearly that the UAE, I don't know if there are representatives here from the Gulf states, but for all of the Gulf states, it used to be a very frustrating issue. Frustrated from the UN, frustrated from the US, and from the Western countries, because in a way they were left alone. And I think this is one of the reasons why the IMEC is so important, because it gives stability for international trade. It will prevent from different organizations to prevent and to tackle this trade. And it's actually a detour way. And this is one of the reasons I believe that it's so important for Saudi Arabia and the UAE as the founders of this organization. I think for the GCC countries, it shows the stability. It's important for them to promote the trade with Israel and Europe, and it's crucial. I hope that once the 8 countries actually will be able to continue the agreement, Israel and Jordan are the 2 states that were mentioned but were not part of the agreement. And I truly believe, I have no idea if you heard, but soon probably Israel will sign another agreement with Syria. So hopefully Syria, Cyprus, Greece, and Egypt will be able to join later to this organization.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And yes, the Houthi problem is an old problem, like the Somali piracy and other forms of other issues, other security issues in the Red Sea, as well as towards the Gulf of Aden. I come to Mr. Paniotis Chrysostomou, Secretary General of the IGC Investment Council, and the CFA of Eurobank Limited Cyprus. Panagiotis, the role of IGC Business Council. First of all, congratulations on being appointed Secretary General. I didn't know it was a new appointment.
Thank you very much.
And if you could please tell us a little more about the IGC Business Council, the role of the IGC Business Council, and its alignment with IMEC.
Yes, thank you very much, Vas. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you, the Indian Chamber of Commerce, for inviting me on this panel. I'm the first non-politician speaker on this panel, but let me say that Cyprus would like to join IMEC sooner than later. First of all, we are committed to that, and it's actually the first European Union member that you meet on your way from India to Europe. So from my fellow panelists here, it seems that the political tailwinds are definitely there for the project to succeed. I'm going to touch upon the economic and the investment aspect of it, representing Eurobank group here on this panel, as well as being the secretary of the INGC Council, the INGC Business and Investment Council, which stands for Indian Greece Cyprus Business and Investment Council. IMEC, it's an economic corridor. So it's about economic and investment cooperation between countries. So what a better example about such a cooperation from the council, from the INGC Council that we have formed as a result of the initiative by the Indian Chamber of Commerce, the hosts of this great event, and the Eurobank Group. We have inaugurated the council last February in Mumbai at Taj Mahal Hotel here next to the Gateway of India, giving the sign of the gateway for better cooperation, economic cooperation between our countries. And the purpose, the objective of the INGC Council is to promote trade, collaboration, investment collaboration, business development, exchange of ideas, basically to facilitate the work of Indian businesses and investors that are looking to expand into Europe, from Greece, versa, of Cypriot and Greek businesses and investors who would like to invest in India. IMEC, it's about connectivity. It's about cooperation between our countries, between the countries that are along this economic corridor. It's about efficiency. It's about reducing costs, speed, security. So the infrastructure projects that need to take place for this corridor to succeed need initiative from the private business sector. So investors from the countries that are involved in this corridor need to be facilitated to undertake those initiatives to build infrastructure projects, such as modern ports, modern railway stations, vessels, data centers, logistics centers, workforce that needs to move between the various countries, technology, automation, environmentally friendly policies. There is a list, endless list of aspects that we need to take care of in making this initiative a success. It's only an initiative at this point of time. So we need the business sector, the private business sector, to proceed to implementation. In order to be able to proceed to such implementation, we need initiatives such as the INGC Council and other private sector initiatives. Eurobank Group is here to assist, being a financial group in the region. But I would like to touch upon that aspect later on in the discussion as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Panagiotis. Mr. Antonios Kourakis, ICC Chief Representative for Greece. Antonios, IMEC is obviously a great opportunity for India-Europe and India-Greece trade. How could Indian companies take concrete advantage of this trade corridor in your view?
Thank you for the great question. If you think about it, the IMEC is more like the new Silk Road, but it can actually become something more than just transporting goods. It can really become a platform for Indian companies to to succeed in their European expansion. And I think Greece can play a pivotal role in that. First of all, as an entry point into the EU with its ports, it's a place where Indian goods can start to get quickly distributed in the EU. But the opportunity, I think, is in more than just becoming a transit point. It can become like a value-adding hub. As an Indian company, if I was an Indian entrepreneur, I would seriously consider investing in warehousing, investing in assembly, even in processing of goods in the country, so that it can turn my company and Greece, of course, into this value-adding hub. Um, for that, of course, you need local partners. I think that's why also ICC has done the international offices to be able to assist members in finding local partners in every country. You need partners in construction, in energy, in logistics to be able to do such an endeavor. I think, so, yeah, lastly, just to finalize, the real opportunity is in not just using Greece as a transit point, but really using it as a base for your operations in the EU. I know we have competition with Cyprus and Italy on the panel, but I have to state that it's a great place to start for Indian businesses.
Thanks so much, Antonios. We also now have my colleague from Romania, the chief representative for Romania of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, Dino Gheorghe. Dino, how do you see the EU-India FTA is obviously essential for IMEC to be successful, and there has been quite a lot of excitement about it recently. How do you see the EU-India FTA come up, and how do you see it develop?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's a very interesting question because I think it's not only about customs, the FTA. The free trade, it means so much more. But let me give you a bit of context. I was reading a few days ago some reports from Goldman Sachs and Boston Consulting Group about the GDP of India in the next 10 years. And it seems that all the conclusions lead to a 10 trillion GDP by 2035, which is amazing for India and great for this free trade agreement. Also, I was looking at the EU investments in India, which top around 100 billion euros until now. So when we look into perspective, I think that this trade will not only bring uh, lower or free customs tariffs, but will bring integration between our economies. They will bring recognition between our systems, which means so much more. We will exchange know-how, we will exchange patents, so we will have growth that cannot be estimated in this moment in numbers. But for sure, as we can see that the Indian economy is growing so fast and so strong, we can understand that the potential is huge. So the sooner it starts, the sooner we manage to regulate this deal, the sooner the benefits will come.
Thank you so much. I come back to you, Ambassador. Um, the Greek ports and shipping companies are of great importance to IMEC. Please tell us more about connectivity from Greece to other European ports that make Greece central to this dialogue. I'll add a small question there about opportunities in Greek ports. I mean, China has Piraeus. What does India have?
Uh, Now I feel that I have to repeat Antonio's intervention. And I'll say, no. It's fine. I'll say, first of all, he is right. We were sitting in this panel with Italian colleague and my Israeli colleague, but it's not that there is competition. We believe there is complementarity in all that. And for that, we consider that there is a base, there are strategic relationships that we have, connections that we have, EU that includes us. We have strategic relationship with Israel. We have strategic relationship with India, which puts us in a good position for the whole IMEC project. And why Greece? One has to look at the map, and one can see that it's an interesting point of entrance. Why Greece? Because there is a series of ports that are going to be privatized. I'm not going to comment further. And we have projects for upgrading infrastructure, for upgrading railway connections. Greece is an energy hub in the region. As you mentioned, the shipping sector is quite important. And we consider that the access to the Balkan countries and to Central European countries is very positive. It's an entry point in Greece. It's geography, and also the green and digital transformation are priorities for the Greek government right now. So that's more or less that.
Your Excellency. I come back to His Excellency Rebak. The Haifa Mediterranean positioning, the Haifa Europe route, is of great importance in the Mediterranean for connectivity to Europe's central industrial heart. Please tell us more about Israel's perspective as a connectivity hub between Asia and Europe, not only for goods, but also energy, for data, for a whole bunch of other things.
I will just expand your question, if I may. First of all, we saw during the last 2 years when we have economic agreements with Jordan and Egypt, and we see how it's important for the stability of the region. I have no idea if you know or not, but Israel provides gas and electricity to Egypt. Israel provides almost 100% of the electricity to Jordan, and Israel provides water to Jordan. So, in a way, we are also responsible for the stability of those two countries who are next to us, mainly to prevent other unstable organization or countries in the region. Haifa, part of Haifa port, is being owned by an Indian company, and we see, of course, a very clear reason why Haifa should be part of the connection, the route. I know that the UAE are now investing in another port in Syria, but honestly, I don't think that Syria is a stable country actually to be part of this connection in the future. I guess that the war in Ukraine and what's happening in the Red Sea, those two wars for the last 2 years and 3 years, made it very clear that we must make sure that other trade corridors will be active. I can say that on October 6th, the day before the massacre in Israel began, we almost finalized an agreement with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to expand the Abraham Accords. And this is one of the reasons why Saudi is also part of this corridor. I can also say that in a way, Europe, it was very complicated for the European countries to maintain a stable pass from the Red Sea because of what's happening there with the Houthis, who actually took over a country. The Houthis are spreading actually not only in this region in the Red Sea, they are spreading also to North Africa, and they may affect even European countries if they will penetrate Libya and Morocco. So in this way, a stable corridor between friendly countries from India to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and of course from them to Europe is very important in order to prevent incidents like what's happening today in the Red Sea, and of course to have another option on top of the current ones.
Your Excellency, I'll come to Panagiotis. Panagiotis, obviously, where there is trade, there is money. So could you please expand on the role of the banking sector in the implementation of IMEC, both in the financing of infrastructure as well as trade and movement of goods?
Yes, sure. I referred before to the, I referred previously to the infrastructure needs that are necessary to make this corridor a reality. You need the private sector to undertake those initiatives and to actually invest in projects. And we are talking about large projects that need syndication, collaboration between countries, and they also need serious investment, and they also need financing. So in this need for financing, you need financial institutions that understand project financing, that they know the jurisdictions, they are familiar with the jurisdictions involved in this corridor. They understand the client needs. Sometimes these client needs are complex. You need to execute complex transactions to support them in order to be compliant in doing so. So it's the role that the banking sector has to play in this initiative, the IMEC initiative, is crucial, I would say. Well, I represent the Eurobank Group here, so I need to say a few things about the group. That we do have presence, of course, in Athens, in Greece, where our parent company is established and regulated by the Bank of Greece and the European Central Bank. The main banking subsidiaries of the group are in Cyprus and in Bulgaria. We also have a private banking subsidiary in Luxembourg with a branch in London. Most importantly, we are also in the process of expanding internationally and eastwards. We have received our authorization from the Reserve Bank of India end of last month to proceed with the establishment of a representative office here in Mumbai. We are very excited about this prospect, and we are aiming to become operational by the end of this year, by mid-December, here at BKC. We are going to have our physical presence, and we are also in the process of establishing a physical presence in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and in Israel as well. So we believe that we can play a crucial role in the implementation of this project, being a group that is client-centric, understanding its clients, market-oriented, nimble enough. Basically, you need partners, financial partners that meet the efficiency that is sought by the IMEC corridor. And of course, the more, the merrier. So it's not only about one group, it's not only about one bank. You need the collaborative effort, the contribution from the private sector in its totality.
Thank you so much. I'll come now to Antonios. We've spoken a lot about IMEC as a physical trade corridor. Let's come to 2025, data connectivity. How do you think IMEC could further improve data connectivity between India and Europe?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, IMEC is a physical corridor for goods. But it's not only about ships and trains. It's also a digital corridor for services mainly. I mean, the project will make the necessary investments in the fiber optic cables across the region, improving the whole digital infrastructure. And by improving the whole digital infrastructure, we will see improvements in latency, in resilience, in the speed, and of course in security, which is critical. I think all of that will just create a layer of trust, which is very important for cross-border trade. Greece, as a country, has become, and it's growing into a data hub. So we have seen a lot of investments in submarine cables. We have seen a lot of investments in data centers. So I think all of that combined with the project of IMEC and the corridor will really give a completely different air on data connectivity.
Thank you so much. Let me come now to Dino. Um, Dino, from the perspective of Romania, which is a country that is not one of the signatories of IMF, how do you see this trade corridor benefit other European countries? I mean, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, France, Germany. I think the benefits are quite clear because it almost seems like they speak for each other because it's so, it's so coordinated. But there are other countries in the EU, so that perspective would be greatly helpful.
Well, it's very funny that you were saying that Romania is not part of it because when I was reading about IMAC, I was like, hey, but where is Romania here? Why are we not invited in this group? And then I realized that actually we have our own project. It's called the Three Seas Project, Primarium, which is actually complementary to the IMAC. And it would be ideal if we could connect those two. And Greece is actually the bridge for those two projects. For the ones who don't know, the Trimarium project involves 13 countries from Eastern and Central Europe. We are talking about a total GDP of 2.5 trillion euros, uh, 120 million population, with a GDP per capita of around 25,000 euros. So I think that adding the Trimarium project to the IMEC would be of great benefit to all the parties involved. I'd like also to tell you more about the Trimarium because somehow it connects with the IMEC. It's a geo-economically infrastructure project. So we are establishing better digital connections, better railway connections. We are having a corridor between Constanța and Gdansk in Poland. And also we are using making better use of the energetic infrastructure. So we're talking about production of energy. Romania now is the biggest producer of gas in Europe, and for the next 10 years, it seems that we will keep this position. So I think that if we find ways to integrate IMAX with the Twisted project, I think there is a huge benefit for more European countries, or actually for most of the EU and India.
Thank you so much. I'd actually take this opportunity to ask Ambassador if she'd like to add something to the Three Seas initiative and IMEX connectivity.
No, I think my colleague covered me completely, so fine.
Excellent. I think we've not touched upon the EU's Global Gateway program, but I think that that could also be, a topic for another discussion. I open the floor to some questions if there are any specific questions. Yes, there's a gentleman there. Is this addressed to any of the speakers? Would you like to address it? The main objectives of the IMEC corridor?
The main objective of the IMEC corridor is to connect India with the EU and maybe further in the transfer of goods, data, and energy. Does that cover you?
I have a question to the panel. Uh,
Direct your question to any specific speaker, it would be better.
okay, because it's about the investments and how are we going to finance this corridor, which is a big question that has been arising time and again. Yeah.
Well, as I took the initiative to take this. It was obvious, I think. So, as I mentioned before, we are talking about very large infrastructure projects. We are talking about project financing, and I referred to syndication. Obviously, such projects are being financed through syndications between banks. It's very, very important for the banks to decide to take the risk, the credit risk, and a number of other risks, of course, including the geopolitical risk. It's very important to feel comfortable with such projects. So, as I said before, it's obvious that we have the political tailwinds for the IMEC to succeed, but it's very, very important to make those tailwinds profound, obvious, and so that the financial institutions feel that the ingredients are there in order to finance such projects and to get their money back, of course. So I believe that the recent initiatives that we have seen between all the governments that are involved in this project are very encouraging. They are going to help financial institutions in making these decisions to finance such projects. Let me also refer to, because Vaz, you have referred to the EU, Cyprus, the Republic of Cyprus, will be holding the presidency of the EU during the first half of 2026. And from what I know, there is also a planned visit by the Cyprus president, Mr. Christodoulidis, His Excellency Mr. Christodoulidis, here to meet Prime Minister Modi, following Prime Minister Modi's recent visit to Cyprus last June. IMEC was one of the main points of discussion in PM Modi's visit, and it's going to continue to be one of the main points of discussion, as well as the free trade agreement between the EU and India. So all these parameters are very important in facilitating investment decisions taken by the private sector. Thank you.
So follow up to that, where are we on that investment and financing the corridor?
Excuse me, can you repeat the question?
Follow on to my question, where are we right now in investment and financing the corridor?
Look, being being one of the non-political speakers on this panel, I will dare to say that IMEC so far is at the level of the initiative. The project is being described. It's a great initiative, a great idea. In order to move from the idea to implementation, it's challenging. Okay, it's premature to talk about financing of specific projects without seeing further progress towards implementation. I refer to some of those projects. Of course, I mean, we refer to the ports. There are already some investments being made in Greece, in Israel, in Cyprus, and there will be more of that. It's obvious that we need ports, we need logistics centers, we need vessels, shipping financing, we need data centers. Some of those projects are already underway. Some other projects will follow when when there is going to be greater visibility as regards the implementation of IMEC.
Yeah, Your Excellency.
We don't have the map behind us, but if you will follow the map, so actually it's port to port from India to the UAE or to Saudi Arabia or to Bahrain, and then another port from Haifa to Europe. So the main challenge is actually the connection between Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the port of Haifa. As much as I know, from the information I have, it's less than 600 kilometers that need to be actually built in order to connect with trains. And with as much as I'm familiar and know, MBS and MBZ, two great leaders who have visions and have beautiful economic visions. We talk about the 2030 vision of MBS and the vision of the Emirates. I think, and since they understood exactly what happened during the last decade, when one state from the north tried to destabilize them, another faction from the south, they understand the importance of this route, and I believe that they will put any effort in order to build the infrastructure, which is not that expensive. I'm not talking about the other facilities you mentioned, and it's actually not only for their stability and their economic vision, it's also because the UAE and Saudi Arabia, both countries, see the importance of the stability of the Kingdom of Jordan. And in this way, it's actually a win-win situation. It's an economic vision for them, and it's another stability for another neighboring country, a Sunni country that they support.
Your Excellency. I would also like to add to that actually, because you asked two very pertinent questions. First of all, IMEC is not, unlike certain other projects, they're not financed by one country. So it's not a single country vision that is being forced upon the other partners, etc. It's a complementary partnership between partners that share the same values. That said, I'll add to what His Excellency said. To my experience, and that's I'm talking practically, the only real part of the railway that needs to be built is in between the Saudi border, right up to the Sheikh Hussein Bridge, and roughly around 20 kilometers into Israel to Beit Shan. And the railway from exactly, and from Beit Shan right to Haifa, there is a passenger railway that already operates that needs to be reinforced for continuous cargo transport. So, so uh, so that part of the infrastructure is there. So practically, and I have for certain reasons driven through the whole part of Jordan where this railway line is supposed to come up, and it's really flat, really barren, and you have a lot of flies. So it doesn't seem very complicated. Secondly, the Saudis in the signature of this initiative already have committed to $20 billion. That seems like nothing. But then you also have the European Global Gateway Program. You have the US, various US programs that right now there are lots of question marks on. But given that these are a group of partners who speak for each other because they realize the importance of this corridor. And when that happens, I mean, I take from what Amay said last year, without trust, there is no trade. But I'll add to that and say, where there is trust and friendship, infrastructure happens. So it will happen. You've got to keep that in mind.
I just wanted to add a couple of points to what everyone said. So, firstly, I think a lot of the infrastructure already exists, is what the main point was, right? Haifa port exists, the ports in UAE exist, Saudi is investing a lot in its rail infrastructure. Actually, you have a pan GCC cargo rail, which is actually being constructed irrespective of the IMEC. So, the beauty of the IMEC is that we'll be leveraging existing infrastructure, and the financing essentially is required only for the certain points where there are missing links, as what Vash very rightly said. Now, the question also then comes in is, how do private investors get involved? We've already seen that APSEZ has bought into Haifa Port, as Madam Ambassador very rightly said, as Greek ports start getting privatized. I'm sure that there'll be Indian interest in acquiring some of them, or acquiring at least an interest in some of them. DP World, is a company which controls ports in the UAE, and DP World has a very strong Indian presence, very strongly integrated both with India, and of course, given our strategic relationship with all the countries across the IMEC, be it Saudi, be it UAE, by our I mean India's, or Israel, and of course Cyprus, as Panyoti said, is the first place where you reach the EU when you're coming from India. So I think a lot of the infrastructure exists. So the financing required is incremental financing, but of course the question may be asked is that who will use this corridor? I think the fact that today, as personally someone who in our businesses imports goods into India or exports from India, we've seen the insurance premiums go up. The fact that you cannot get a ship today, honestly, to go through the Red Sea because A, there are such few ships who do it. B, even the ones who do it, the cost is prohibitive and the premiums are very high. So its insurance premium itself will dictate people to move to the IMEC. So even if you look at a forward, if you discount the forward sales, or I mean the forward demand of this IMEC, there is enough private financing that can also come into the investment in infrastructure. And I'm sure Eurobank will play an important role in doing that.
I'll add to that for example, Italy, India has the Blue Raman data cable that Telecom Sparkle is laying out that goes through land. It's one of the first few intercontinental cables that also go through land, bypassing the sea and diminishing the risk of cables being cut. So, I mean, initiatives are on, right? This is not one vision of one man that he's going to do by paying for it. This is a vision of a group of partners, and that's what makes it very Indian. So I hope that answers your question. I think there's another question there from another panelist. Yes, another audience member.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a small question from His Excellency from Israel. Uh, this side. Uh, we must be aware that a couple of days ago, Pakistan has signed a deal with Saudi, uh, and it's a mutual deal to protect each other. And yes, yes. So, and also just wanted to add, there's also some news that these Gulf countries are also trying to form an alliance similar to NATO. How do you look at it?
When I was based in Egypt, before I was familiar with the GCC countries, I was sure that all countries have the same interests, the same economic vision, and unfortunately understood that every country has completely different interests and agenda when it comes to the foreign policy and economic policy. Um, First of all, regarding Pakistan, I'm not really familiar. Just, if I may say, from my perspective or from the intelligence perspective, I can say that in a way, and I'm sorry to say that, the Gulf states are deeply disappointed from the American administration, the current one, the previous one, and the previous one. Um, so every time there's a new administration in the U.S., there's a new strategy towards Iran and towards the Gulf states, and especially, I'm sorry to be the party pooper, or I don't know how to say that, because of the Israeli attack in Qatar last week. I think those countries feel way more fragile. And this is one of the reasons that suddenly Saudi Arabia signed this agreement with Pakistan. Now imagine that there's going to be another Sindor or another event or incident with Pakistan in the future. I can't even think or imagine that Saudi Arabia would be involved in any way. I think it's just a way to send a message to the Western countries and to the US. Don't leave us here alone. I can tell you honestly, when I was in the Gulf states, and I've been to almost all the Gulf states, even those we don't have official diplomatic ties with, in a way, all of those countries are not only happy, but thrilled of what happened in our region for the last 2 years. I'm not talking now about what's happening in Gaza because this is a very sensitive issue when it comes to their public opinion. But when it comes to the leaders of those Sunnite moderate countries, and I can really praise the UAE as a state that has a vision for the long run, and they are the only country who actually um, presented a vision even for the day after in the Gaza Strip. All of these countries understood and understand today that Israel is not really the problem. Israel is part of the solution, and this is why the IMEC is so important. Israel is also part of the solution in Lebanon because Lebanon was torn down by a terror organization who was controlled by a different country. We know that the Houthis try. I'm sorry, I'm getting into all of this political aspect, but it's
if we
too much.
just stick to the topic, please.
Okay.
And this is for the audience as well. Could we avoid geopolitical questions and stick to the topic, please? Thank you. Nikhil, please.
So the question is really for whoever has the answer. Can you advise if the EU-India FTA has been forward looking to establish equivalent standards between EU's incoming goods compliance requirements? They have quite a few of them: technical, safety, environmental. With Indian standards, is there something in the FTA which will create a bridge?
I don't really think that. I think that gets into far too much technical stuff, into something under discussion at the moment in time. You should address that to Minister Goel. Uh, and if you get an answer, please share it with me as well. I'm very curious. There was another question there. If you could please.
I think I'm connected with nationality professionals here. I'm Greek born, living in Cyprus for the past 7 years. Before that, I was living in India for 7 years. I have worked in Italy and also have been many times in Israel. I'm having also some remaining. That's why I'm very interested about IMEC, and I wanted to ask as an engineer, I will be straight to the point. Do you focus on any of the maritime power defense synergy, energy security, and digital sovereignty? Is there any particular focus, something that you are working right now, or is it generic and you are looking to the whole spectrum? I think the question is whoever wants to answer that.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, this is a question that is really connected to India, integration to Cyprus and all that. I think, as one of our colleagues already mentioned, there are discussions. There are discussions in the framework of EU. There are discussions between bilateral, trilateral, and the corridor will be built part to part. So I cannot say that there is a specific focus. And for us, specifically, the big question is how we get integrated, as the Israeli colleague mentioned before, how Israel, Cyprus, Greece getting integrated in the discussion, and how practically we resolve problems like the ports, the financing, customs, digital. There are so many question marks, but the main thing is that the project is there and discussion is going on. Thanks.
If there are no more questions, one final question. Final question, and
Do you think US will be pulling out of IMEC? And if that happens, what will be the impact?
before anybody else answers, if I had a crystal ball, I'd bet on the stock market. So, if anybody has a better answer than that, please feel free to take that question. So, in the absence of, or even honey, look, if I had a crystal ball to answer that particular question, I would be investing in anything I could. So, that said, thank you all. I'd request Ameya to give a token to all our um, guests who were kind enough to make the time to come here and discuss this topic with us. I think we'll start with Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Greece. His Excellency Walter Ferrara, the Consul of Italy to Mumbai. His Excellency Yaniv Revak. Mr. Chrysostomou, and my colleagues Antonios and Dino. And to myself. So thank you. So thank you again for coming, and please enjoy the rest of the Global Business Summit. And there will be a cocktail dinner this evening from 6:30 onwards. Well, 7 says Raina, so it's 7. So thank you very much again, and have a good evening.